Why, out of all things, did you decide to redefine a suit?
I think the traditional suit is becoming a bit of an outdated formality and needed a shake-up.
That's why we've appealed to lots of celebrities and famous faces, because what we are delivering is genuinely a lovely experience for people.
Anton Deck just wore it recently.
Yeah, really cool moment.
A lot of people, when they're starting a fashion business, money is the barrier to starting. You raised pre-launch?
No.
Talk to me about your journey and process with funding and how that looked.
Reaching out to people on LinkedIn that said they've got investor in their title and pitching the business that we were trying to raise money for. It's very hard to market a product that you haven't created yet without a brand to go with it. It's almost a reverse question, not what is the business worth, but what can you convince someone it's worth?
How much are you paying rent at Covent Garden?
I'll tell you that.
Really?
North of figures.
Choosing electrolytes can be overwhelming. There are so many different ones on the market, so it is essential that you pick the right ones for you. Humantra understand this, so they've put together this nifty little trial pack. For just £15, you will get 8 sachets beautifully packaged in this box, which include 2 of each flavour: berry pomegranate, elderberry, Himalayan lime, and my favourite, lychee. And you will also get a free frosted bottle too. Click the link down below and start your electrolyte journey with Humantra now. You guys are unbelievable. Already, tens of thousands of you have listened to and watched the podcast. Not for 1 minute did I think that in the first few months of release, we would already be at this point. We were even in the top 10 charts after the first month. The lineup of guests I have for you in the following months is amazing. Some of them have never even done public interviews or podcasts before, but trust me, you will definitely have heard of their brands and names. If you want to know as soon as they're released, please make sure you have subscribed and followed me, Ben Gallagher, on your favourite social media platform. That's BenGallaga. This gets more eyeballs on our episodes, which gives us more traction to get even more amazing guests. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this one. We've obviously got Sam and Julian. Mm-hmm. I'll start with you, Sam. How would you describe Julian?
Saw that coming.
What's he like? What are his strengths? And what does he add to Batch?
That's a very good question. I would describe Julian as a hyper-charismatic, very creative individual that's got a strong business nous and an amazing ability to get shit done.
I'll take that, mate. Thank you very much.
And that's what he brings to Batch, really.
I'm going to have to perform on this podcast now as well, mate.
Yeah. He's
hyper-charismatic, did you say? I'll take that.
But it's true, though. If there's something that we've come up with an idea for, Ju's the best person to get it done. So taking something from an idea to a reality and refining it and making it better along the way is probably his biggest asset to Batch.
Cheers, mate.
20 quid later.
Julian.
Yeah.
How would you describe Sam? What's he like? What are his strengths and what does Sam add to Batch?
So Sam and I went to Newcastle together for context, so we were friends before business partners for a long time, and I think when you're friends you never get the opportunity to appreciate somebody's like business acumen. Sam approached me with the idea for Batch, or couldn't find a decent casual suit, so you know straight away then you're making a decision to get into bed with one of your mates, figuratively speaking. But yeah, he's just impresses me every day, to be honest. He's super driven, very technically able, is great with numbers, is very analytical and has great commercial acumen, so great at coming up, seeing the bigger picture, being able to zoom out from the day-to-day and focus on what we need to be doing in 6, 12, 18 months' time. Stuff that I probably am less good at, so we balance each other out nicely like that.
So, from what I got from that, so Sam, your operations, think with your head more than your heart, quite detailed orientated, and then Julian, you're creative, think more with your heart, quite impulsive.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of a balance of those two things. It's like I've got a good ability at coming up with big ideas that make sense later down the line, and then Ju's got a really good knack of refining those big ideas and making it happen, whereas I take like twice, 3 times, 4 times as long as I should to get something done, because I'm caught in this other space which is thinking about it and strategizing and trying to be efficient, and if you try and be too efficient you become inefficient, whereas Ju's very good at making that happen, and then making it look beautiful along the way.
How did you two meet? University?
Yeah, Newcastle Uni.
Playing rugby.
Playing rugby?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Nice. Well, I mean, it was a mixture of like the rugby club, nights out, late nights out, where you get to know people very well at university. So yeah, it was a pleasure. Sam was in the year below me and in my brother's year as well, and there's lots of mix in between the years. So we're still in the big same friendship circle that we have now, which is amazing, which has been like our support network for Batch in London, is that near enough every single person from our uni moved straight down to London. So
when you were friends in uni, did you ever think, I'm going to start a business with this guy?
No, to be honest.
No. If I'd have like had to be able to pick people in my friendship group, Sam would have been high up on the considerations.
But I wasn't planning on starting a business at uni.
Yeah.
Like,
What were you planning on doing? What was your thought process of, when I leave uni, this is what I want to do?
well, that's not entirely true. I started a little night at uni, as I'm sure lots of people did. Like a night.
What's
like
that?
A DJ night.
Okay.
Making bookings at clubs and getting my mates down to come and see it. And so that sort of gave me this like, it's quite fun to run your own thing. It's quite fun to be your own boss. But what I took from that was like, I like doing lots of different things at the same time. So I want to be a project manager. And I left uni, went to try and be a project manager. You can't get a job without experience. You can't get experience without jobs. You're just stuck in this cycle. About 2 weeks into that search, a friend of mine's boyfriend had just started a business. And he was looking for some part-time sales help. So when I joined this startup called Punchy, who makes soft drinks, and it was just a really strong fit from the start. I was like, I love this. Startups are cool. I want to work in startups now, and it kind of went from there. As opposed to being at uni, being like, I can't wait to start my own thing and do my own thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to hold on that point where you said, when you're looking for a job, you need experience. But then to get experience, you need to get the job. Like, I feel like that's a reality for so many people.
So many careers.
How did you get out of that kind of like rut, or kind of move to figure out that to get experience, I have to do X, which is not doing the job?
I actually got lucky, to be honest. I didn't like work out a proper plan. I just had this thing put in front of me and went and took it, i.e. to go and work part-time selling drinks at a festival. And that then led to like, okay, cool, I can add value here beyond just selling drinks. I can add this, I can add that.
Was that out your comfort zone though? So like, to go and do sales, was that something that you thought you would be good at, or was it like, I don't know, I'll give this a go?
No, I think I knew I'd be quite good at it. It wasn't like massively out of my comfort zone. I think it was just quite an easy sales job, to be honest. It was like giving out free samples and then making up a good reason as to why someone should come back and buy more, which just to me like made sense. That was an easy thing to do with the right pointers as to like, here are the key things that make people want to drink this or buy this.
And this was a brand called Punchy,
Yeah.
which was a startup.
Yeah.
And you left uni, Julian, and did something very similar with a brand called Oddballs.
Yeah, that's right. That's an underwear company based in Newcastle. My parents are Geordies, so settling in Newcastle for a couple of years was fine. I was going to ask if you're a Liverpool fan. Presumably you are.
Of course.
Big game last night. Big result last night.
I actually missed it.
So did I, unfortunately. But
You a Newcastle fan?
Yeah. Anyway, where was I? Working for Oddballs in Newcastle, selling underwear. Basically, we license all of the Premier League football clubs, the Premiership rugby clubs, England Football England, Rugby England, cricket, etc. So it was a fun job for me to go into, but so similarly to Sam's, it's a sacrifice that you have to make. You basically join a startup. I was on 18k selling pants. I was like, this is a stepping stone to be able to move down to London. What quickly became clear was that the business was scaling really quickly. I was getting paid quite well, having a nice lifestyle. Eventually was able to persuade my bosses to allow me to move down to London. That was pre-COVID, before working from home was a thing. So managing their retail sales independently from the business. So kind of running my own business for the business, which allowed me such great autonomy, which fast forward 4.5 years into that, Sam approached me with this idea for Batch. And then I managed Oddballs and Batch, and Sam did Punchy for a while at the same time for about the best part of 18 months until the time was right to be able to knock Oddballs on the head and go full-time with Batch.
So what number employee were you of Oddballs?
4.
So I saw video literally just before, and it's like number 2 is the best position to be in a company, which is very similar to what you were. So number 4, but it was a co-founders, or was it 3 co-founders?
No, it was 1 managing director, somebody that worked in the warehouse, and a head of design. So essentially I was kind of like the co-founder's right-hand man to a lot of the areas of the business. So similar idea.
So being the number 2 is the best position in a company to be in, because you don't have the stress of the business, the finances, and you've got the freedom to do your own thing. And that sounds like exactly what you did. And I think I would probably urge everyone, if they didn't have the capital or didn't want to take the risk straight from university or straight from school, becoming an early person in a startup will give you that experience of doing your own thing anyway, just with minimising the risk completely.
100%.
Yeah. I was third into Punchy, same thing.
Yeah.
Joined 2 co-founders.
And you
learned
were
so much.
You were exposed to everything.
Yeah. You have to be.
Most of it, yeah.
You have to be in order to be able to do your job, and there's a team of 3 or 4 people. Like, you have to know what's going on in the warehouse, what's going on in finance, when the next production run's coming. If you don't know that, it's impossible to go out and sell.
Did being exposed to everything in a startup build any sort of resentment because it wasn't your thing?
Not necessarily for me, to be honest. I was happy to work under and for somebody, and providing that I had a nice lifestyle and I was getting paid equitably for the amount that I was making for the business, which I was fine by me. Obviously, in the back of your mind, you're like, one day I'll be able to do this and it'll be my own. But for now, I was quite humble and happy working and learning under other people.
Mine was slightly different, because over time, when you do become exposed to the stress of running a startup. It's not easy, very rarely goes right, and the business I was working for wasn't in a position to pay me equitably, so I felt like I don't have as much equity in the business from an ownership perspective. I'm not earning as much money, but I'm putting in as much work, and so that's over time that starts to grate on you, and it's like there's an imbalance here and this doesn't feel fair, which was part of the reason I got to the point where I was like, okay, I know enough now, I'm ready to start my own thing. The other part was that it would have taken the business to take quite a big jump for me to be out of my comfort zone again with what I was doing. I kind of had that bit down packed. So it was like 2 things aligned at the same time, and then I had an idea and I was suddenly like, oh, hang on a minute, this might be it.
Was there ever any point where you felt that the company that you were working for was resentful towards you for working on another project?
Yeah. Yeah, I got a big earful for that. Partly because it came out to them at a time that it shouldn't have. It was told a family friend I had this idea at a barbecue, and they made the mistake of running up to them, not knowing they didn't know, and being like, oh my god, what do you think about this new idea? So at which point they felt like I was going behind their back. In reality, it just wasn't formed enough yet for it to be worth talking about. I didn't even know if we were going to register the business or not.
How did you resolve that situation?
I just had to have the open and honest conversation with them and assure them that I was still going to do 100% of the job that I'd been employed to do, and that I was working on this other project in my spare time, which was the truth. We were doing like probably 14, 15-hour days for a while to get it to the point that we could start to build something from without quitting one job and moving to the next. So we took the strain on it, and they, I think through gritted teeth, were like, yeah, fair enough. And eventually it got to a point where they needed to fill my role. I was ready to move into the next thing, so we parted ways.
What about you, Julian? What was your experience?
Mine was probably a lot calmer, but the business was doing that. Like Punchy and Oddballs have gone through different stages of business, and I think Oddballs was probably making a little bit more revenue, so there's less stress from coming from them on me. I stayed with Oddballs for slightly longer than Sam did with Punchy, and to be honest, it went pretty smoothly. They were understanding of the situation. It was at which point when we took a shop in Spitalfields, they were like, how much work are you actually getting done? Especially because mine as well was like revenue-based, like targets. If you're hitting those, there's only so much issue that they can really have. But it got to a point where it was obvious that I was doing, 2 to 3 hours work of Oddballs max a day. We were raising at the time, and me leaving Oddballs was contingent on the raise being successful, which they gave me the grace period to be able to do, to the point where we raised, and I was like, right guys, we've raised, thank you very much, and left very amicably. So it was pretty calm overall.
What is the biggest thing you two both learned from being so exposed to a startup before starting your own thing? So what did you bring?
What was the most valuable thing we learned?
Yeah, what did you bring to Batch that you learned from being involved in a startup?
For me, it was like basic business skills on one side, i.e. how do you do a cash flow, when do you register for VAT, all the little things you don't really get taught, but they are so crucial to running a successful business, plus an understanding of how hard you've got to graft to get something from nothing to something. And I think it's so often over glorified. It's like, oh, it must be amazing, you've done your own thing and you work your own hours and you're your own boss. But what's often missed is like the amount of resilience and determination and everything, sacrifice that has to be made that goes on behind the scenes. I kind of been exposed to that to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So carrying that through made almost doing it for the second time a lot easier, because we approached it from both of us similar experience with a much more relaxed.
It's the commitment, isn't it? That's what, like, you have to accept that it's essentially going to become your life, whether you like it or not. You're going to be thinking about it. You have to allow that it's going to take up a significant amount of your thoughts and your brain all the time. And if you're cool with that, then it'll, it should run smoothly. And that's what it was like with my time at Oddballs. It was like my life, part and parcel. I was happy to work on weekends. I was happy to work late. I didn't bat an eyelid at it. So knowing that that's how you basically make a startup work it kind of came naturally to both of us.
I think also one thing that I missed is like we both learned that things go wrong the whole time in a startup. Like there's one thing that is consistent, is that things go wrong. And because we carried that through from our last jobs, when things did go wrong, it wasn't like panic stations. It was like, okay, another thing's gone wrong, how are we going to solve it? And looking at it from a completely different angle rather than this is the worst thing that's ever happened. Mm-hmm. Stress levels are through the roof, pure panic, and then it's much more difficult to solve the problem.
Yeah, I love the phrase, like, unhappiness occurs when expectations don't meet reality. Yeah. So that's why a lot of people fail when they start a business, because they don't know what to expect. Mm-hmm. Whereas with you guys, because you were so exposed to a startup, you knew that so many things were going to go wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And I used to say this all the time as well, when people would be like, what's your role in the company? And I was like, a firefighter, because that's all you are every day in a startup. That's all you are every day. There are issues legit every single hour of the day, and it be from super small to really big. And whether it's just like having to go out and get paper because there's no paper to print off the A4 orders to ship in with the parcels, or whether it's someone who wants to leave the company. Do you know what I mean? Like the issues are just
big to small.
Yeah, absolutely. How important do you guys think it is to have a co-founder? Because I'm obviously a co-founder with my brother, so I'm really interested to speak about this topic with you guys.
It's like, because I've been in startups for a while now, you get a lot of various people approaching and asking for advice, or they've got an idea and they want to know how to take it to the next step. And my first piece of advice always is find a co-founder. Not quite always, there's some exceptions to that, but generally it's like go and get yourself a co-founder, because it's not really someone to share the lows with. Sharing lows with people is easier than it sounds. Like your mum will understand if you're having a low point. It's someone to share the highs with, to like help you step out from that moment you're in and recognise that you've just done something fucking amazing, which is really hard to describe to mum, because she's not really going to understand that you've just got a new retailer and what that means and the knock-on effect, or to use it as an example.
It's quite frustrating when your parents just don't get it.
Yeah. And you just really want someone to give you a big pat on the back. Yeah. Or just to like let you know that you need to give yourself a pat on the back, because you, rather than going from one thing to the next thing and what's the next goal and how are we going to get to the next target, to be like, oh my God, we just got a really cool investor. Let's go and have a pint and celebrate that, even though we don't really want to do that. Like, let's take this moment to do it together.
Yeah. Celebrating wins together.
That's it.
Of course.
Anything else?
Just shared responsibility. All the decisions don't fall on one set of shoulders. You've got someone to bounce ideas off of.
It's the accountability, which is great as well. You tell your co-founder you're going to do something, you have to do it. If you tell yourself, you can let it slide far easier, right? So that's always been useful for me. As well, you have to accept that you're basically bringing in like another person, like really close into your life, which is quite intense. Like we have quite an intense relationship, which is perhaps like one of the negative sides of having a co-founder, right? Because you have to share literally everything, and it's like where do the boundaries lie? They're so blurred. Yeah. If you've got other people that it's a very complex relationship to have with somebody, especially with a friend. So managing that is really important as well. But ultimately we're in the same camp. I mean, I wouldn't want to do a business without a co-founder.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Especially a business as heavy touch as ours. We would have been screwed without two of us. It wouldn't have been possible. So it's the extra hands.
Because also, like when you described each other at the beginning, it would sound like if it was just you, nothing would get done, but everything would get planned. And if it was just you, everything would get right, but not everything will get done, but not necessarily right. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's very similar to me and my brother. And the accountability thing is just so important because, like you said, it's so like the things that are easy, the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. So, but whereas if you tell someone you're doing it, you're like, oh, even if I don't want to do it, I've promised this person that I need to do it.
Works a treat.
100%.
Yeah.
Works a treat. That's one of my favourite things to do is like it'll be done before 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, which means I have to get up at 6 and like get that work done, but then it's done and we can start the day and that job is being done. Chances of doing that if you're just working for yourself are slimmer.
Why, out of all things, did you decide to redefine a suit?
Good question. Wanted a casual suit, couldn't find any good ones. Sort of noticed that I had a couple of traditional suits in my wardrobe. They weren't
Sit up straight for this bit.
they weren't really appropriate for a lot of the occasions that I wanted to wear a suit to. There's something nice about putting on a suit, right, where you feel confident. It's even like wearing a two-piece. It's a similar idea. You look put together, you feel confident, but with a traditional suit, it's not that comfortable. Quickly it's become overly formal, where like, you know, if you go to a smart business meeting that you would wear a suit to, you can't then go to the pub because you do look like a bit of a twat dressed in a suit at a pub. Whereas there is another round to that, which was what we wanted to create and have created, where you still can wear it to a business meeting, where you still feel put together. It still gives you that lift of confidence and you put your shoulders back and stroll into a room. But then you can also go to the pub afterwards, or you can wear it to your mum's birthday, or, you know, I think the traditional suit is becoming a bit of an outdated formality and needed a shake-up.
Why do you think it's so formal now? A suit, like why have they become so formal? Because at one point in time, everyone wore them, right?
Yeah, I think like society and culture's moved on and things have become a lot more flexible and lucid. Post-COVID, everybody got very used to being casual at home, and when we were reintroduced back into the workplace, that expectation for such formality was kind of unnecessary. So I think there's been quite a rapid change on that in recent years, especially in the workplace, but events have become far more informal. You know, weddings. I only wear batch suits to weddings now, as you would expect, obviously, but I don't never feel underdressed, even with people in traditional suits. So I think just like the world has become a little bit more of a forgiving, relaxing place, and such like archaic standards of how people are, what smartness is perceived to be has totally changed. And things have become a lot more casual.
I think there's a bit of a negative connotation that's developed through society as well, particularly around like from media and films and television, where you've got a slimy car salesman who's wearing a suit, who's out there to do one over you, and that sort of spread a little bit into if someone's trying to sell something to you in a suit. There's certain industries that makes sense for them to be in a suit. And if they're not wearing a suit, you won't trust them, but more and more so. Someone's wearing a suit, there's a little bit of mistrust that's fallen into play, particularly around sales roles. So I think there's a slight connotation that's developed over time.
What industries would you say still should wear suits?
I think it's like top-end lawyers, top-end bankers, where you're dealing with people that there's a certain expectation that you should be making the full effort. There's an effort that goes into dressing in a traditional suit, wearing shirt and tie, that putting yourself through a slight discomfort because generally they're not that comfortable, so that you've shown full effort to go and that you really care about what you're doing. So I think there are occasions where it still makes sense. There are still lots of occasions that I would wear a suit to. They're few and far between. There's more occasions that you could wear a casual suit to that you wouldn't a traditional.
When doesn't make sense wearing a suit that people still wear suits to? Do you guys think?
That's a good question.
A bit stumped on that one. Probably like, I think there's a lot of expectations in media and people that are necessarily on TV to be really well turned out, but I'm compromised on that answer because despite making more casual suits, which there's clearly a need for, we do still both believe that like the traditional suit has its place in society. But I think weddings is a key example of that. I think like now that people that get the attention at weddings are those that are in funky suits and like have considered like maybe like a slightly like more stylish 70s piece, or like a nice like chilled shirt and chinos or linen trousers. Like that's made people really stand out at weddings, and you all of a sudden, so I wore this to a black tie wedding, rather than everybody asking, nobody asks where you got your black tie from.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But everybody asks you where you got your nice casual suit from, and like, oh shit, I could wear that.
Well, Central C turned up to a wedding in a tracksuit, didn't he?
I think a better way of phrasing that question is, where are the places that we used to wear suits to that we don't any longer, that a casual suit would fit and provide that same. So if you look back to the 1920s, right, and like everyone rolled around in their suits. I'm jealous of that era because everyone's so turned out all the time. Like when I look at old films, I'm like, that was a cool time to be alive. Whereas we've lost that because suits have become a bit overly formal, because the workplace, because the social place has casualised a bit. But things like date nights, things like going to the theatre, things like even going to the pub with mates, special occasions, semi-special occasions, mum's birthdays, etc., are all amazing occasions that you would love to make an effort for and look good for and feel confident in, but you wouldn't wear a traditional suit to because you'd be completely overdressed.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it's almost the inverse of that.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a really good point. Because going to the cinema back in the day, you'd wear a full-on suit, wouldn't you?
Full-on suit, and it's cool.
It's cool, so cool.
And you feel good, and like suddenly that cinema or theatre occasion is so much more special because you've made the effort, you've stepped to a game up, you'll remember that one.
Yeah.
Or that date, or whatever it is.
You recently opened a shop in Covent Garden. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so physical retail's been a huge part of Batch's story. When we first launched our first collection, we did a 2-day pop-up in Shoreditch for our friends and family. Obviously had an online website as well for the first collection. We basically sold exclusively at the party and non-online, and we're like, oh shit, people are going to want to try this stuff on. If you're buying something, waiting for it to arrive, and it's a casual suit where you definitely want to know it suits you and it looks good on you, you're going to want to see it in person. So
yeah, because return rates on clothing is ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll come on to that. Because we make to order, we don't have any returns really, or 0.2% of customers return their products to us, which is quite wild.
Very jealous of that.
Yeah, it makes our life easier. It's one of the benefits of the made to order model. Anyway, yeah, so set up shop in Spitalfields for the last 2 years on very casual lease arrangements, and that's kind of where we've...
For someone who doesn't know what Spitalfields is, describe the environment, describe where it is.
It's in the heart of Shoreditch, next to Liverpool Street, next to Brick Lane, so you kind of got the mix of the city crowd working in around that area, but then you also have the Shoreditch East London creative, so it's quite a nice blend of people. And then Spitalfields market is one of the oldest markets in London.
Which is really interesting because it's quite modern. Like when you go in there now, it's really modernised, right?
Yeah.
It's been developed big time.
The heart of it is still quite like authentic and organic, and there's lots of people that have run really small independent businesses, but we've been on the perimeter where it has become very commercial, and we are the smallest brand in Spitalfields. We're probably the smallest brand in Covent Garden now as well.
What other brands are around? So Peloton's there, right? In Spitalfields,
Used to be, they've moved.
Okay.
You've got like Lululemon, Tag Her,
Aesop.
I'm
just trying to create to the listener your branding, your positioning, where you guys are.
A few small independent clothing brands like Wax, Lestrange have been there, a few others here and there, and then it's a lot of like makeup,
American Eagle, Doc Marten,
Byredo, a few others. But
so a real high-end place to be, right?
Yeah, but basically we've been there for 2 years. It's been brilliant for us. It's laid fantastic foundations to build Batch from. Because we've had a physical retail space, because we do most of our custom in-store, we've met all of our customers. We're building this really authentic community. 7 out of 10 people that try on a Batch suit in-store will go on to buy it. So in-store conversion is wildly successful for us. So post this recent raise, or part of our like bigger strategy thinking was that where's the best location for us to settle long term? We know that physical retail works for us. Let's double down on that whilst we get the online piece right. Took the punt to move to Covent Garden. 9 to 11 Shorts Gardens is the street right next to Seven Dials Market. I mean, it's prime real estate. Reason being to move from Covent Garden to Spitalfields, which is the most common question we get asked, is that the profile of shopper that are in Covent Garden is difficult to Spitalfields. Spitalfields is a market for a bimble. Covent Garden, you go with a vengeance to spend money. So people come into the shop and, you know, our suit retails at £395. In Spitalfields, that was like, in Covent Garden, that's like a good deal. So we're much better positioned now, which is nice.
It's not just a shop though, right?
No. Yeah, so there's a lot of chat, or has been for the last 5 years, like since COVID pretty much, but even before that, the high street's dying. And we sort of looked at that, heard that statement and decided that was completely incorrect. It's actually just lots of dead shops filling the high street. And what consumers want now is more than just a shop. Like when you're going shopping, it's an experience, because buying stuff online is so much easier and quicker and less hassle. Not in actual fact, because you buy stuff you don't like and return it and get the sizing wrong and whatnot. There's a whole other conversation on that. But when you do go shopping, you want to have a good experience whilst you're out there. So when we created the shop, we wanted to firstly make it feel very homely, because you're more likely to buy something, try something new on if you feel relaxed and comfortable environment. But secondly, to know why you've walked into somewhere, to want to stay there and to not want to leave afterwards. So we designed the shop in a way that you could, upstairs kind of feels like kitchen, dining room, there's a coffee machine in there, there's cafe tables, there's areas to sit and work, the sofas. And then downstairs is more like living room, bedroom, carpeted floor, more sofas, or there will be soon, with slightly later on furniture. And this huge fitting platform where you can imagine like a bridal wedding dress fitting, where you stand up, you've got mirrors around you, or an proper old school tailors. We wanted to recreate that but modernise it a little bit, so you still get that amazing experience of stepping up and feeling like you're buying something really special, which we believe you are. So we designed it with that in mind, but also as the ability to host our existing customers. So once you bought something from Batch, you become part of what we call the Batch Members Club, which is basically just our way of naming our community, but the way that we nurture that is through this new shop, which is also an event space, where we've just hired someone full-time on events and community to work out all of the different reasons that we can make the most use of the space and keep people coming back for more, from whiskey tastings to tattoo flash days to mince pies and carols to you name it. We're going to try and throw different events to suit different people in different times.
That's a really smart hire. Tell me more about that. I'm really interested.
Yeah, well, we've always wanted to do this, to have this community, to really get people to buy into what we're doing, become advocates for the brand. And so having this amazing event space gave us a great opportunity to nurture a community that we're trying to build. It's much easier to build connection in person than it is online, proper, real connection. So we hired him to come in and basically take that role. Running events is time consuming. Finding and booking events is time consuming. We wanted to free up our time to do what we're best at, which is selling the brand, selling the business and the vision, and bringing someone that's young, that's got energy, that's got drive to go and run that, that's good with people. And that's
He's called Ben, actually.
Is he?
Yeah.
They're all the best. Do you know what? That's really interesting. Like, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking, you know what? I could do with someone like that. Mm-hmm. How important do you reckon he'll be for the business? Or how important will that role be for the business?
I think if you look at how much of our custom comes from return customers, which is quite unusual for a suit. It's one of those things that you would expect people, you buy once and then that's you done. But we've got people that have bought from all 6 of our collections that we've launched. At least 1 in 4 people come back for a second suit within 12 months. So given how much of an impact it has on our revenue numbers, which is a key to the business surviving and growing, etc., I'd say it's pretty critical to our growth. And then when you release new products, like I'm wearing one of our overcoats, which is why I'm sat here inside in an overcoat, you've got people that have already bought into the story, that have bought into buying something and waiting for it, that if you've nurtured correctly and they had a good customer experience and they're bought into what you guys are doing, they know their sizes and they're ready to buy the next product.
Well, yeah, there's a phrase in fashion where it's like, all you need is 10,000 superfans and you will have a super successful clothing business, because whatever you bring out, they will just buy and buy and buy. And that topic, or that quote that you just said then about traditionally people only buy one suit. How are you going to change that? because at the moment you only offer the suits and the overcoat? Are you looking to diversify product?
So it's quite an interesting one. We branded ourselves as a suit. I think fundamentally, yes, we've called it a suit because it's a jacket and a trouser set, but it doesn't behave like a traditional suit. You can wear it with anything. You can wear just the jacket, just the trousers. You can buy them as separate. So immediately people aren't necessarily buying a suit, they're buying an outfit. They're buying the backbone of their wardrobe that they can style and pick and choose whatever they want from their wardrobe to style it with. So, but yeah, the big vision for Batch is to become the go-to made-to-order brand. So as we're proving concept that people are willing to pay for it, pay for clothing and wait for it because they know they're getting a better price and quality, there's no reason why we can't release other products into our website and store. So this is the wax canvas overcoat that we've got coming.
It's really nice.
Well, we're really happy with it. So it's got a nice oily finish, and then we've got the herringbone overcoats coming in January as well. We do linen shirts and trouser sets. Developing the product range is kind of what's next for us. As we've kind of touched on, the brand's only 2.5 years old. We haven't come from a fashion design background, so developing new products swiftly can be difficult and it's expensive. So we've barely scratched the surface of the people that this suit will work for. So it's kind of been focusing on, right, we've got this great product that we know works. How can we scale that whilst we work out in the background what the next product range looks like for us that also works on a made-to-order model? Because people ask us, like, well, when are you going to do t-shirts or hoodies? No one is going to buy a t-shirt and wait for it to arrive. Doesn't make sense. We don't. Like, I supplement my wardrobe with stuff from Uniqlo. This is a Uniqlo t-shirt. And that's around the conversation around sustainability, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But yeah, I think we're not rushing necessarily to move into too many products too soon, but it's part of our vision, and it will be one of the ways that we introduce new customers, because not everybody wants a Batch suit, but a lot of people have a good argument for needing a good overcoat in their wardrobe. So you appeal to different markets with new products.
Different colours, different fabrics.
Yeah.
You touched on a point there. You don't come from fashion backgrounds. You don't come from design backgrounds. This is a really important question, I think, that a lot of people listening will get a lot of value from. So how important is it to understand design before you create your own fashion brand? Do you need to have an understanding of design?
Partly, yes. You learn it as you go, and you need to get a reasonable understanding of how the garment is produced. But ultimately, we worked with an independent fashion designer to help us create the technical elements of the garment, a tech pack, all of the stuff that goes into that.
Talk to me about what is a tech pack in fashion?
So I would have said no. I'd have said having a deep understanding or even a basic understanding of fashion design is not the essential part to building a successful fashion brand, because there are so many people that have that skill, that work as freelancers, that are willing to help you. The key is like finding a product that fits the market, finding a why are people going to buy what you're making, and then you can kind of figure out the design of that later. So your process is like, you come up with what you want something to look like. Someone will then design that on paper and build what's called a tech pack, which is the technical drawing plus what buttons, how big the collar should be, what fabrics go where, etc. Then it goes to a pattern cutter who cuts out all the different pattern pieces and gets the form of it correct that fits with the tech pack. Then it goes to a grader who takes it from one size into several sizes. Then it goes to someone else that samples it, and then someone else will make the final product. So it's a really broken up supply chain. But
perhaps what Sam's not fully appreciating is that took us the best part of a year to understand, and that's where I was coming from. Yeah. You don't need all of that information to be able to make this, but it takes you at least 12 months to get an understanding of who all of those people are, where you find them, who can do this. It's a lot easier if you know. We spent the first 6 months fucking around, like in London, with like loads of different people at different haberdasheries, trying to work out what threads, what buttons. The way that the garment is constructed has been a steep learning curve for us, but they're not essential skills that you need in order to be able to create a fashion brand. No.
So what happens in that process if, say, the collar's a little bit too big or the button's not the right button? Like, what do you do in the middle of that process if something goes wrong? You basically start again.
It's all right. Make another sample, change the pattern of the garment, and try again. And hopefully not too many times, because the sampling of garments as a young fashion, that's what's really expensive.
My mind literally just went to, but surely that's going to cost a lot to create another sample just by one little, 1 centimetre on the collar being wrong.
In the grand scheme of things, it's not loads of money, but if you're starting out a fashion brand with a small budget, it's going to sting. So you don't want to iterate too many times.
So say that the designer who's done the tech pack has gotten the collar wrong, the size of the collar wrong. do they then charge you again because you've changed the size of the collar?
You'll have decided on that size yourself together, so probably.
So, yes, essentially, yeah. And sampling comes at a surcharge at least double what you would normally pay for the final garment.
Because it's
a one-off.
Yeah.
It's a one-off, and it takes time, and it's not like someone that's tuned into how to create 100 jackets, so they're just churning them through. It's like, let's rethink this, let's work out all the bits together. But there's another stage between a tech pack and a pattern cut, well, when you get the pattern cut, where you can create a garment in a significantly cheaper fabric called a toile, which is essentially like cheap linen or cotton that's undyed that will give you the shape. So you can work out, using cheaper fabrics and quicker processes, is the collar right? Are the arms big enough? Have you got the length of the jacket correct? But even so,
it's a big guessing game. Like when we first started, we were trying to find a fabric manufacturer, knowing full well that the quality of our fabrics was going to be an essential component to the success of the product early stages. Found a mill out in Italy, and they sent us thousands of swatches, and you're literally just feeling and like reading the compositions and trying to be, okay, so that's got 98% cotton, 2% elastane. How much elastane do we want to add to our product in order to have more flexibility? So literally guessing the whole time. Then you have to take a punt on ordering a roll, which costs. Then you have to sample it. Only at which stage will you then know if that fabric was good at all. So and you've got thousands to choose from. Thankfully, the initial fabric that we landed on is one that we currently still sell. It's a brushed cotton. As I said, it's got the 2% elastane in it. It's beautiful. It was a bit of that, but that's lucky. We could. The very first one that we did was really heavy cotton.
Canvas.
We thought we were taking inspiration from some of like Carhartt's like Detroit jackets in terms of like their durability. We were like, we want this suit to be durable and last the test of time, so we want this. Found a fabric that we felt seemed like that. It was like 435 grams. So we thinking that's what we want. We got it back and it was literally like a straight jacket someone would wear in prison, and the funniest day we've ever had, really. Well, one of.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question in a roundabout way, the learning process of starting a fashion brand as not being designers or coming from a textile background is more complicated for sure.
Do you think using external people slows that process down though? Like if you had that internally, you'd be able to make more garments or more designs, and you'd be able to diversify your products more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a balance though between having too many products and forgetting, like it's very easy to get bored internally of what you're making because you see it every single day.
Yes.
And forget that for our brand, probably like less than 0.1% of the population is seeing what we're making. And like, it takes time to build more and more people into that space and keep doing the right thing whilst nurturing the people that have seen your brand, that either didn't like the colour that you released and are waiting for the next one, or they wanted a slightly different material, or they've always wanted an overcoat but not a suit, whatever it might be. So having like a smart range of products that attracts the right amount of people, that's sort of befitting of all of your followers, but not having so many products that nobody really knows what you do, there's no focus. End up with endless SKUs and half of them don't ever get used.
You're creating a real like identity with sticking with such a short product offering.
That's the idea.
Just back to your shops, because I find this fascinating. So how much was your rent in Spitalfields?
We basically were on a short-term lease, so we paid 10% of turnover, but we had a 7-day notice period.
Interesting. So why would a leasing company reach out to you and say, you don't have to pay us rent, but just pay us 10% of your sales? Because you might have done nothing and they might not have got anything.
They didn't reach out to us, we reached out to them. So we had a warm introduction through a good friend of mine called Jimmy Bruce, who finds commercial properties. And we sort of said, like, we're looking for a shop. Can you help us? Shop in Shoreditch. And he goes, actually, I might be able to introduce us to the market. We'd sort of built a decent brand identity at this point. Like, still very, very early doors, but we had some cool photos, we had a good product.
It looked good.
We'd sort of like marketed ourselves well and put together a little deck. And how they work is the leases are expensive and it's sort of minimum 5 years. So they're looking at 5 to 10 year leases that have quite a big rent on them that only really your big brands can afford, hence some of the brands that we spoke about earlier as neighbours. But when you're a big L'Oreal owned company, it probably takes 6 months to 12 months to get a lease signed off and plans designed and things ready for someone to move in. So you've got this window of 3, 6, 12 months. We've got an empty shop. It's either like get someone in, don't charge them loads of rent because it's not a big commercial deal, and have a shop that's filled, or you don't do that and you have an empty shop. So it's kind of a win-win. We pay their business rates and service charge, so they're not losing money. They might make some money, but they're not losing, and they've got full shops rather than a half-empty portfolio. At which point, no one comes there because half the shops are empty.
And then you moved to Covent Garden. How much are you paying rent at Covent Garden?
Can't tell you that.
Really? Okay.
North of 6 figures.
Really?
Annually.
For the year?
Annually. It's nothing crazy.
That's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
It worth the risk?
We'll tell you in a year.
Most certainly, I'd say.
Yeah.
You feel like it's worth the risk?
Yeah, we wouldn't have taken it if we didn't think it was worth it. And having been in there, we've only been in there for 3 weeks, so it's still really early doors, but initial signs are that our gut feel was right. I'd say gut feel, slightly more educated guess than that, but...
It's our job to make sure that it's busy now. We're at a stage of business where we never expected that we would open a shop in Covent Garden and it's suddenly going to be rammed. People aren't seeking us out yet. People aren't walking past being like, oh, that's Batch London, I know it. So, yeah, a lot of the work that we do behind the scenes is making sure that people are booked in for fittings and coming down to the shop, which is how we get a lot of our custom anyway.
Why, when so many businesses are moving online, did you guys decide to spend 6 figures on a store?
I think it's the product that we make and the way that we make it. So firstly, it's, as we traditionally know, it's something that you want to know, you felt the material, that you've gone through the process, you're spending a bit more money on it, so minimum $395, but it goes up to $695 for some of our more expensive items. So you want to know that it fits you. If you're going to buy something and wait for it to be made, again, it's that trust that you bought the right thing. It's that trust that you're going to like it. It's not like how traditional fashion models work, where you can like a jumper and buy 3 different sizes knowing you're going to keep one. And that's why you can buy online, and that's why part of the reason return rates are so high. You don't have that sort of freedom. If you got the wrong size, you then got to wait another 8 weeks for it to be made again. So for us, at this stage of business, whilst we're still building brand trust, whilst we're still ensuring people that what they bought is going to arrive and that we're not going to mug them over, which is like would be an easy early question for a business that's just launched. Knowing that there's a physical space there that you can go and find the right size that you can trust is going to arrive is really valuable. What our challenge for growing online is making people aware that they are actually just off-the-shelf sizing and that they do fit really well and that will help you find the perfect size by asking a few questions. But that those two things compete against each other, like come to the shop and get fitted and have an amazing experience, but you can also check out online easily. There's slightly conflicting messages that we're still figuring out.
What's the experience for someone, for when they see Batch, they come into the store? What's the experience from the moment they get into the store to the moment they leave?
Yeah, so we host things called a fit and style appointment. Previously they were called book a fitting. It's all over our website. A lot of our marketing drives people towards booking a fitting, and ultimately what that means is we know that the customer's coming down to the shop, so we can plan ahead, ask a few small questions like what their sizes are, what fabrics they're interested in, perhaps what suits. So we've got a bit of information about the customer. We know that we're coming down, so they'll be nicely, warmly greeted. So to add to Sam's answer just there, the shop is also our office. So it works for us to always have a physical space, and that works quite nicely. But when customers come down, they'll be offered a drink from the Hi-Fi Cafe or a coffee from a professional barista set up, complimentary, which there aren't many shops in London that do that. It's a very tailored experience. They'll then be given a pretty short and sharp 5 to 10 minute pitch of how Batch works. It's a complex business model in that these are all samples in the store for you to try and work out what size you are, what colour you like.
Yeah, give me that pitch now. Pretend I've just walked into your store. What do you say?
I'll give you the revised version, which we've kind of taken bits of whilst we've been speaking. But why we created Batch was that we couldn't find a decent casual suit. The traditional suit has become overly formal, which most people can relate to. We'll then talk them through as 2 guys that weren't particularly conscientious shoppers. We wanted to set Batch up in a way that might facilitate a way for people to try shopping more sustainably. However, what we've learned in the last 2 years of business is that sustainability alone is not a strong enough motivating factor for people to buy clothes, but price and quality are. By making everything to order, we're able to deliver on both price and quality. The suits retail at $395 on a traditional fashion model. they would be north of £1,000. Like if it's a handmade suit from London, yes, it takes 4 to 8 weeks to make, but that's where you save hundreds of pounds.
Well, for example, this is going to back up your point. I was in Paris yesterday, I was telling you guys before. I went into a place, I got a suit, some shoes and a belt, and it was €1,200.
Well, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So essentially what I've done there is I've explained the product, taken them through the full collection, explained the value proposition, a relatable conversation around sustainability, which everybody gets. Yeah, we all want to be sustainable, but we also don't really care. Done. Price and quality. Then take them downstairs to the private fitting platform. So tunes on, they can have beers, coffee, enjoy themselves, take their time, and then try the different fabrics on with different clothing. So we have shirts, t-shirts, different shoes. We sell the G8 Bass loafers in the store as well. So they get a really unique shopping experience. For a lot of people, dressing smart casually is very difficult. You need a lot of money usually to dress smart casually well. We take that situation out for 400 quid. Somebody gets a full outfit and an experience, meet the founders, hear a story from the founders, and Sam's dog Alfred's always there, so it's like a super chill environment. It's one of the most chilled shops in London. Like, there are no rules, which is nice. We'll have the TV on, take our time, and that's why we've appealed to lots of celebrities and famous faces, because what we are delivering is genuinely a lovely experience for people. It's very casual, and you get to know us, and people then, as a consequence, feel attached to the brand, and like they know Sam and I personally. But that's because we've genuinely given them the time of day. And ultimately that will convert further down the line, because they then become part of the Batch members club. That experience they've had in the shop is very memorable, and I have never had a bespoke suit made for me, to be fair, so I don't really know what it's like, but I would imagine it's somewhat like that, but a little bit more colloquial and more chilled and less stuffy, and you can bring your mates and have a beer and you're chatting to normal people.
Stuffy, I think, is a really good word to sum up like a traditional tailor's.
Yeah.
You go in there, it just feels a bit like muggy, stuffy, dark, gloomy.
So I've had one made. I had one made for my 21st. That was what I asked for from my parents, a tweed suit. And it was a cool experience, and I was well up for it. But it's also so confusing, because it's like, do you want this or this? At each section, do you want this leg width or this leg width? Do you want these buttons, or do you want buttons for braces, or do you want loops that you can put a belt through, or do you want waist adjusters, and what lapels do you want, and what different buttons do you want, and what lining do you want? So you're going through it and you're like, I actually don't know. I kind of need someone to help me and tell me, and I kind of need to see what it's going to look like at the end. So unless you've had a few suits made, which not many people can afford to do or have a reason to, it's actually not that nice an experience.
Yeah. What we're providing is like a bespoke trying on clothes service. It's not like a suit fitting, because it's off the shelf sizing. I think that's one of the like things that we need to demystify a little bit with our brand. It's off the shelf sizing, so it's not like you're getting measured up or tailored up. You're working out how to style our outfit and leave with a lot of confidence, and knowing that you've bought something that you're going to wear loads. Like, that's the interesting conversation around the traditional suit. Like you were saying earlier, I've bought it once, I've worn it once, I don't know when the hell I'm going to wear it next. Part of this, like, explaining to what Batch is like to people, is that painting a picture that they can just chuck it on whenever they want. It's not a suit in the traditional sense. It's a smart outfit, which lots of people don't have.
Do you know, since I asked you to like give me your sales pitch splurge, I'm really buying into it.
That's good.
Like, really, I think it's a really clear. Yeah, no, I need to come down. I think it's a really smart idea. But then my business brain comes on. It's like, okay, so you guys can't do that forever. You guys can't give that pitch to everybody.
So our 3 new members of staff can, but it takes probably like 3 months to settle in, to have the confidence to understand how it all works, to be able to answer people's questions. You need a lot of confidence to be able to persuade people that they're about to pay and not leave with the clothing.
What is the big picture? Like, what's the end goal, or not necessarily end goal? What's the next? It's a very cliche question, but I think it's so suited for you, because there's no one really else like you. What's your aim for the next 5 years?
Next 5 years is an interesting one, and it's almost impossible to answer, because you don't know where you're going to be in the next year. But short term, we want to improve the model in the current shop. So now we've got this full-time lease, we've got all of the ingredients, we've got this new brand that's repropositioned slightly. It's like, let's work out the perfect model to making this shop work. Once we've done that, let's carbon copy that across new locations in the UK and further overseas, further abroad. Whether that's bring a shop up to Liverpool and Manchester, whether that's open a shop in Paris and New York, and keep creating this cycle of physical retail combined with an online shop, and in the process release more and more products that we dub investment pieces. So things that you're willing to buy and wait because it makes sense because you're going to save a lot of money, like an overcoat, of which you're either buying cheap crap that's still quite expensive, or you're spending a fortune on something that's not that reachable for many people. It's another good product that fits that middle category where you want high quality for less. What other products exist within that same realm, which we're still answering those questions as part of our new product development. And then how do we bring more people into our Batch world, our Batch members club, and in the UK, in London, in the UK and overseas.
Mm-hmm. What's the longer term plan?
We want to build a business that's worth something and sell it. But ask me, if you asked us that same question in a year's time, it might be a different answer.
Would
it
that
might
have
be
been
that it's a lifestyle brand that we want to run for the next 30 years.
Would that have been the same answer if I asked you a year ago?
Yeah.
What you've just given me right now?
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite pessimistic in my thoughts. I try not to think too far. Like, that's the end goal, but I'm trying to focus on what the problems are, like, right in front of us now. How do we scale? What are our, like, pain points that we're not getting over fast enough to help us scale and grow the business faster?
What do you think those pain points are right now?
It's quite complex, really. I think, like, we have a small marketing budget, so, like, we've just pulled all of our paid spend because it was just, like, pissing money up a wall, basically, on the size of our budget. Couldn't quite get the mechanics of it working right for us.
But also paid advertising on a made towards a...
It can't be spontaneous. So
doesn't make sense.
For us, it's reaching more people, driving more traffic to the website. The website's just been optimized and rebranded and custom built website, so people, everything that I've just told you, hopefully you can visit the website and in 5 minutes max understand what the product is and how it works. If people can understand that from the website, the chances of them checking out online in that it's off-the-shelf sizing, they're saving loads of money, in theory they can just buy. We know that physical retail works. If we can get online tracking with even 1 to 2% better conversion rate online, we'll have a successful business. So that's kind of like the short-term goal.
Yeah.
At the same time as making sure that Covent Garden is as busy as possible and we continue to grow the brand, because it's still very, very, very early days.
It's quite a simple one. What we have, which a lot of businesses struggle to achieve quickly, is an amazing product, a strong why as to why we exist, and a good brand to go with it. And those three fundamentals are pretty difficult to get right. We've managed to do that. What we have struggled to do is drive enough traffic to the shop and to the website. So it's a very simple formula. How do we drive more traffic to the shop and the website? In reality, it's not that simple.
Do you want me to tell you what I think?
Yeah.
Get better at socials.
Mm-hmm.
Short form socials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Honestly, you guys will kill. Like, if you can get a social media strategy right.
So we're in the process of hiring a full-time content creator.
For that exact reason.
We're ditching and going hard at organic. Just that we're doing so much cool shit between, like, the product development, having a flagship store in Covent Garden after 2.5 years old. That's the dog's bollocks. It actually is. It's so sick in there. And we're not capturing enough content.
Again, on that,
influencers.
what you just said about having the dog's bollocks of a store. So for people who are shopping online, you should do a walkthrough video of, like, exactly how you would treat, like, but someone, so do you know, like, the Facebook Meta glasses?
Yeah.
Put them on someone and just have them walking through and they don't speak, but you just speak to the person with the Meta glasses on and be like, this is the experience you get when you're in store, but if you can't come in store, have it online as well. Because that experience sounds amazing. And, like, that's sales plays you were telling to me before. It's made me want to go out after this podcast to your store and see it and get given that experience, you know. I think the amazing thing is with you guys is there's still so much you can be doing.
That's it.
Oh yeah, we know that. We've been spreading ourselves insanely thin.
Yeah.
Like, for a team of 3 to have been running a full-time shop at the same time as all of the stuff that goes on in the background, at the same time as raising, hiring, product development, we've essentially scattergunned our success so far, and now we've laid these foundations. It's now time to focus on the levers that are going to help us grow, which is an exciting position to be in, because we've never really had a chance to be like, right, let's double down on organic socials, on, like, quick form reels, on stuff we know that, like, we have the potential to create viral content, but we haven't had time to.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that keeps us up at night. It's the same thing that gives us the motivation and the drive to carry on, which is like, we've got so many things wrong along this journey, and there's so many things that we haven't quite got right yet, but we're still growing. We've still had a load of success off the back of it. So it's like that question of what happens when you get it right, and that's a very exciting thought.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why you don't want to go to sleep, because you're like, oh, I want to try it.
Yeah.
You know?
You'll know it for a while.
Yeah. While we're on that topic then, obviously all this stuff that you want to do costs money, right? Did I hear you say you've recently raised again? So raising in a fashion company is like really interesting to me, because I've never done it. I know we went on Dragon's Den, but like, long story, but we've never gone through the process of actually taking funds and using that fund. So so you raised pre-launch?
No.
You kick us off, bro.
Yeah, talk to me about this story, because it sounds like a complex and interesting story that I was saying to you before. A lot of people, when they're starting a fashion business, money is the barrier to starting. And raising obviously gives you the capital, you give away equity, but it gives you money to start something, to produce something, to work with. So talk to me about your journey and process with funding and how that looks, because I know nothing about it at all.
So I think normally in fashion, you make a product or buy a product to sell. You buy a small amount, when it sells you buy more, and then you just go for an upward cycle from there. When you're building a made-to-order brand, and we always had lofty ambitions, it's very hard to market a product that you haven't created yet without a brand to go with it. So there's like introducing something that's made to order later down a fashion line as a pre-order product is much easier than launching with it. So we set ourselves a challenge. To begin with, we both had some savings, and then we took small loans from my dad and Julian's granny. So we managed to amass about
4,000, right?
7.5. We amassed about 50 grand, just under, to build a brand, build a website, develop a product, find a manufacturer.
Which sounds like a lot of money to someone who hasn't started a business, but in reality,
it's nothing.
It goes quickly, right?
It goes in seconds, because they're all expensive things. Like, and then we managed to get through our first couple of batches, we called them at the time, so our first couple of releases. And then we got this opportunity to take on the shop in Spitalfields, at which point we found it. We weren't paying rent, we were just paying business rates and service charge, but that was still like £5,000 a month. But we had this huge shop and there was nothing in it. So we then realised we needed to raise some money, because we didn't have anything left in the bank, to go and fit out the shop to take us to the next stage of business. We raised 50k off a couple of angels that we found on LinkedIn, just by reaching out. Fortunately, I'd raised a few times in my previous business, so I had some idea of where to start and how that works.
Where do you start?
You start by working out why you're asking for money. So build a deck, let's say, of here's the problem that we found, here's the solution to that problem that we're solving, this is the team behind us, this is the product or the service that's solving that.
Here's our proof of concept, importantly, as well. You need some rough proof that your product has been selling to some degree of success, and then ultimately what's the size of the market once it grows.
And what you're going to spend the money on.
Yeah.
And therefore what you're asking for and what you're going to give in return. And doing things like working out valuation, which is what percentage of the business you'll get for the money that you're giving as an investor, is finger in the air, ultimately. Early stage, very early doors, it's like, it's almost a reverse question, not what is the business worth, but what can you convince someone it's worth? And some of that you have to back, and some of that's just like, it's worth this because I say it is. And here are the numbers, and here's the financial forecast that says in 3 years' time we'll be making this much, but it really is finger in the air stuff. And then from that point, once you've got this is why we're raising, this is what we're raising for, you can take that information and search for investors. And for us, that was reaching out to people on LinkedIn that said they've got investor in their title and pitching the business that we were trying to raise money for, with the huge ambitions of what we were going to do next with it and where it could go.
How many people did you reach out to?
Hundreds.
How many people responded?
We actually had quite a high return rate.
Wasn't too bad, maybe like 1 in 10. And then like 1 in 5 you might have an initial conversation with, and then one of those might come through to investment, basically.
So you reached out to hundreds.
1 in 100 invests, basically.
So you reached out to hundreds, tens of people replied. How many invested?
So initially we had 2 people invest.
Okay.
And then after that, we raised a bit more money. So you've got what's called SEIS, which stands for
SEIS?
Seed
Okay.
Enterprise Investment Scheme.
What's that?
Which is a government-backed scheme to encourage people to invest in early-stage startups. So for the first 250,000 that you raise as a business, it has to have been trading for less than 3 years, and there's some other criteria, but it's not hefty. For someone that invests under the SEIS scheme, you're using really simple numbers. Let's say you invest 10 grand into Batch under SEIS. You get 5 grand of that back, so 50% back through your income tax. So income tax relief. And then if the business fails, you get another 25% back through income tax relief. So for a 10 grand investment, for 10 grand worth of shares, your actual risk is 2.5 grand.
Who introduced that into government?
It's been in government for years.
That's a good idea.
It's a great idea. So it's like investing as a business that hasn't raised any money yet for its first 250 grand is by far the riskiest investment you could possibly make. But for people that have got a good eye for it and pick winners and hedge their bets enough, so if you're a prolific SEIS investor, you might make 20 SEIS investments a year, knowing that only one of those will come off.
But the risk is so low because you get it back in income tax.
So the risk is low, but the chances of losing your money is also high. So it's like it mitigates some of that risk. So you're still risking like 25% of your investment, and the ability, like not everyone has the ability to put that cash away somewhere that they can't ever touch it again. You can only get that cash back when the business sells or IPOs.
Is there a minimum you can invest in this SEIS?
No.
So you can just invest 500 quid?
You could, but then your challenge is
You've got these people on your cap table, so you
Yeah.
want to minimise the amount of investors that you have on your cap table, because as the business grows, the more complicated it gets, because you have to go and get their signature for things, and they've got a 500 quid stake in a £10 million business in 5 years, you'd be kicking yourself.
Yeah.
and bigger investors, when you get to that point, won't invest in you if you've got a busy cap table.
So you can choose who to accept the EIS from?
Yeah, you set a minimum ticket for the round, so like the minimum investment in this round is like 10k or 20k, etc. Ours has generally just been, the lowest has been 10k.
Okay. And then what happened from that moment then?
Spent the money.
Yeah, we went on holiday.
Yeah, we spent the money on growing the business, running the shop, fitting it out, building new products, a couple of hires across that period. And then
Yeah, I think we raised about 270k off the bat, so just over the SEIS limit, which gave us like about a 12-month runway or so
Okay.
from a cash perspective.
we basically made mistakes, learnt from mistakes, realised we like all of the things that we needed to change and grow from, and rebuild the brand, relook at our proposition, stop talking about sustainability. And so then went and raised another 720k recently to go and build on the foundations that we'd laid.
How did you raise the 720?
Same way that we raised the 270.
Yeah, but we had a different profile by that point. We had 500 plus customers, all potentially with high net worth capabilities. So reached out to them. So a lot of our customers came on board as investors.
That's amazing, right?
Doing lots of stuff within sport and the celebrity space. So reached out to a few of our celebrities who had suits, telling them about the round. One in particular was Romesh, which was great timing. Romesh Ranganathan, who decided that he was going to wear our suits on his tour, which was huge for us. He then grew an affinity with the brand, and Sam and I, we built a great relationship, pitched him investing in Batch, so he got on board. Then all of a sudden you've got this big headline investor, which you can then go out to people and say, oh, by the way, Romesh Ranganathan's investing, and they're like, okay, I might be interested then, which made raising that round a lot easier. And then a few other people, a load of the England rugby lads have invested, and a few other high profile people, so it's a real mixed bag now, and we're quite a lot of investors now, which is really cool because they're essentially brand advocates. You know, the nice thing about Batch is that our investors know by just wearing the product, that's kind of their endorsement, so they're able to wear it at dinner parties. It's not a traditional investment these days is tech and stuff that you can't show. It's not tangible, you can't show it off to people, whereas all of our investors wear the suits with pride and go to events to say, oh, I've invested in this casual suit brand.
Anton Deck just wore it recently.
Yeah, that was a biggie.
Yeah, really cool moment.
Were you expecting that, or was it a surprise?
Yeah.
No, we'd made them their suits, we made them their jackets.
For I'm a Celeb?
For I'm a Celeb, yeah. Their stylist actually got in touch. I mean, it's like the amount of people that have told me since we started the business that we should get it on Ant and Deck, because it's basically their uniform. They're either in black tie for Britain's Got Talent, or they're wearing chore jackets and smart trousers, which is what we make. So eventually it came around, he got in touch, said, I'm buying outfits for I'm a Celeb. Do you guys want to make something for Ant and Deck? And we were like, yep.
Yeah, duh.
So what comes from something like that though? So like Ant and Deck have just worn your product on national TV in front of millions on one of the most popular shows in the world that's been happening for 20 odd years. What do you then see as a business off the back of that? Anything?
It's really intangible. It's very hard to track like exact metrics. What we get the most from is validation amongst people that already follow us.
The way
and
we utilise it, yeah.
There's an osmosis that happens. Yeah. So people slowly start taking on this information, and like they might see Deck was wearing one of our stone grey jackets in a recent episode, which stands out quite a lot. There's not many jackets that look like it. People won't look at that and be like, I want to know where that's from because I want to buy that. What brand is that? Where is it?
They just search grey stone jacket.
Might search grey stone jacket, or they might be walking down the street and be like, I'm attracted to that and I don't know why. Couldn't tell you where I last saw it, but I want to go and check it out. So slowly over time, all of this exposure starts to feed into people's brains. And
the celebrity stuff is our highest performing stuff on our own Instagram. It'll reach new audiences. It performs ridiculously well on LinkedIn. Everybody, sees it and asks you, I saw Ant and Deck in it. So that does go a long way. And actually, despite it not always being tangible, there were 2 stone grey jacket sales on the website that night, and we rarely ever sell them as separate. So that was directly off the back. That wasn't a coincidence.
Yeah.
2 people had gone off the back of seeing Deck wearing it and buying it.
But you'd expect more. Like if you just talk about traditional marketing, you'd expect more than 2 orders from Ant and Deck wearing your product, right?
100%.
So how do you think you utilise that more?
You just got to keep burning the content, right, and reuse that content over and over again. And as our business gets more well known and we've done more stuff, I think the difference is we're getting these huge endorsements for a business that's 2.5 years old, which shouldn't really happen. It's kind of like, I don't quite know how it's gone that well, right product, right time. But if you're a business that was 10, 15 years old and everyone kind of knew what it was already and they already know the silhouette and they recognise it, the impact of Ant and Deck wearing it on iCeleb is far greater than it being the first time you come across the brand or the first time you've seen it.
It's creating huge authority that would cost tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of pounds for a business that would have to pay these people to wear it. How did you get celebrities to wear your product? Because I've got a list of them here: Ant and Deck, Professor Green, Ashley Walters, Romesh Ranganathan, Dan Walker, Spencer Matthews. Like, how did you get all these people? And I imagine there's handful more. How did you get all these people to wear your product?
Yeah, Instagram DMs.
They just saw you and...
Well, us messaging them being like, we've just set up shop in Spitalfields, we're a casual suit brand, we think you'd like them, would you like to come down for a suit fitting on us?
As simple as that?
Yeah.
It's the right product at the right time. It's what people want to wear on stage, on carpet, on TV. Similar concept. It's like you want to look put together, but you don't want to look overdressed. We solve that problem. So we're approaching celebs that have a problem they need solving with a brand that's quite cool, and then someone's inviting you in for a free suit fitting. How do you say no to that?
That's so easy to get celebrities to wear your brand then, right? Because you just have to... Because every celebrity, I don't care who they are, they look at their DMs. They must get thousands, but they look through all of their DMs. They say they get thousands, they definitely don't. They get tens, but like they a day. So it adds up, but they must check them every day. So effectively, as a fashion company, a fashion brand, all you need is to have a really good product, something that's different, something that they've never been offered before. Because like fast fashion brands, they must reach out, or back in the day, they must have reached out to everyone.
One of the key differences is that we are very strict on the fact that they have to come to the store to get the suit. So then they meet Sam and I, you build an authentic relationship with the founders, you hear the pitch, you understand why you want to wear it. We tell them all the occasions they can wear it. We tell them how they can style it. The beauty of these things is a lot of the time people come in and pay for it or buy lots. And that's what happened with Ashley Walters. He came in and bought the whole collection. He's coming on Monday as well, so I'm very excited to see him. But yeah, I think it's just a case of traditionally with clothing brands and using influencers, you will send a load of stuff out in the post and expect the influencer to post about it. The consumer is turned off to that type of awareness and that kind of social activity. So what's unique to us is that we're able to get them in, and then because of our characters and that we're quite respectful but also kind of punchy, you're like, can we take some photos? And making sure that their guard is down so they're happy to endorse it, because a lot, as you know, like high profile people are usually managed by an agent. We always try and avoid the agent at all costs, because that's when like the money conversation comes in. Can you do this? Can you do that? You can't do this, you can't do that. If you can go direct to the person, at the end of the day they're just going out for a nice little shopping experience and they're benefiting from it.
Right, I want to address the elephant in the room. And I've thought this whenever I've saw the product. I just don't think it's a suit. Like when I first looked at it and when I first came across the brand, I was like, why do they market themselves as a suit? It's not a suit. It's a beautiful product, but why do they call it a suit? Why?
What would you call that?
A jacket and trousers. Because like a suit, the buttons never go up to the top, right? It's a lot more casual, which is a casual suit. I get that, right? But like I think it's so much more beautiful than a suit.
It's so interesting because it's something that we've debated internally non-stop since our genesis pretty much, but there's two sides to it, because on one side the word suit is really powerful. It's like you kind of know that means a two-piece item straight away, and it's probably what's allowed us to get so many celebs down to our shop. So that's the one side. The other side is it's pretty confusing because you hear the word suit and you're like, oh, I don't wear a suit anymore, so I don't need that. Or I do wear a suit, so traditional suit, and that's not traditional, so it doesn't work. Just a big part of the reason we've rebranded, big part of the reason we're releasing new products. You look at it from jackets and you look at it from trousers.
What's the main difference in the rebrands? Like what did you used to say? What do you say now?
Suits redefined into raise the standard.
So it used to be suits redefined.
We've dropped that for exactly the reason you've just raised. That shouldn't be our leading message. Into our new slogan is raise the standard, which is a way of communicating that we are a brand that's looking to help you dress better, but also to help people be more sustainable. So it's raise the standard of how you dress and of how you consume.
Yeah, and like the subtitle to that is like what you wear when you want to look good, which is super simple for any consumer to understand, right? And that's what our product enables people to do. It's like you can bang it on and you're going to look relatively well turned out.
Yeah, I really like this herringbone one.
Yeah, it's my favourite by a long shot since we've started. Batch 4 Burgundy I used to wear all the time, which was this really lovely deep red colour, but this one's pipping it now.
So you touched on price before. It's $495?
$395 for the cotton suit, $450 for the linen suit, and $595 for the wool herringbone, and the price varies on the basis of how expensive the fabric is.
But still, for a quote-unquote suit, very cheap.
Very cheap.
How
for handmade?
Yeah, precisely what's coming up in the question. How can you charge so low for a product that's handmade in London, made to order out of Italian fabrics?
The reason that you're getting charged such a big markup on normal fashion items that you're buying is because they are also having to account for holding stock, the cost of returns, the cost of stock that they've made that doesn't sell, that goes to landfill, that comes at a cost, the cost of getting to the end of the season and realising that there's loads of stuff they haven't sold and they've got a discount, but things that are being discounted to 70% they're still making margin on. Just give you some insight into basically the value of stuff is inflated so that people can discount it and still make money, alongside accounting for all of these other bits of margin leakage that you get along the supply chain. So because we don't do that, because we're made to order, because we don't hold the stock, we make each piece once it's been sold. So every piece has a purpose. We don't have to charge that same markup. So we can just charge enough that keeps the business ticking, that means that we still make money, because that's when we're running a business if we weren't, but deliver the best quality item we can for less. And alongside that, we don't offer discounts unless you've already bought a suit, and then we'll give you a little bit of money off your next suit as an incentive to come back for more. But we've led with a best price first mentality, so we don't get stuck in this trap. There's a phrase that someone mentioned the other day when I was talking to them about Black Friday, which is once a discount buyer, always a discount buyer, which rang very true to me. It's like, why would you buy something at full price when you can wait to knowing that inevitably it will come on discount later? So does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. But what's so interesting to me is that because no one does anything that you do like you do it, you could charge anything. You can make up your own price, right?
Yeah.
And that sounds like a very reasonable price. Like, it sounds like you could be charging a lot more for the product.
Yeah, some people have suggested that along our journey, like, you could be charging more. It's been interesting to test, like, the price elasticity of the product, in that we haven't really seen, like, if people can afford it, they'll buy it. And one of the challenges is reaching and marketing the people that look at spending £600 or dropping £1,000 in a store and not batting an eyelid. The best customers that we have are the people that will pick up 2 suits and an overcoat, and like in half an hour you've made £1,500, which is where we want to be as a brand. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where we go. I think we want the brand to be accessible to as many people as possible. And so I think, like, we're reassuringly expensive is the way that we call it. It's not dirt cheap. £400 for most people is still a decent chunk of their disposable income a month. But at the same time, it still is a price point that suggests that there's clearly some degree of quality that's been put into it. But I agree, we could potentially charge more. I just think it becomes difficult to market to those people.
Yeah.
Accessible luxury is the phrase that we use. And I think there's a real gap in the market for that. There's loads of luxury brands. There's loads of accessible brands, fast fashion brands, etc. But it's that mid-range, like good quality for less. Your trade-off with Batch is you have to buy it and wait for it.
But and especially in the kind of sector of more contemporary menswear, a bit more formal than the streetwear brands that are booming in the past 5 years. Like, there's really rarely anyone in that sector right now.
I think if we were like £1,200 or around £1,000, we would struggle to have the argument, because people would be able to go to like Reiss, Moss Bros, Suit Supply and get one next day. Why wait? You wait for us because £400 is cheap, but you're getting better quality potentially.
So how long does someone wait for a suit then? Because when you go into a store, traditionally, me last night, for example, in Paris, I went in there because I needed it. Literally 20 minutes later, I put it on, I went out. People like to come away with something. When people go into your store, they don't come away with anything. How have you managed that, and how long does it take for someone to essentially receive the product they're buying?
It takes 4 to 8 weeks from purchase to delivery. So we collate orders over the course of a month. At the end of the month, we place an order with our manufacturer. It then takes them 4 weeks to make it. So if you buy at the start of the month, you'd be waiting 8 weeks. End of the month is 4 weeks. We mitigate the issue that you've just raised about people, and it's usually blokes, if I'm being totally honest, and a bit generalising, that have waited too late to buy something that they need for a wedding that weekend. If you bought a suit, we'll lend you one. So there's no cost to being lent a suit. Our insurance is that if you mess that one up or don't bring it back, then we'll keep the suit that you've just brought in. Right, so it's a pretty fair deal, and there's a bit of honesty and trust that's lent into that, and it's been very few occasions where people haven't been trustworthy.
Talk to me about one of the occasions that it's been returned back.
There's nothing like major, but someone will promise to bring it back within 3 days, and 4 weeks later, and they still haven't.
Okay, so nothing too crazy.
At which point we're like, well, you can keep that sample suit now that's been worn a few times, and we'll put the new one back on the rack.
Yeah.
But generally, like, people are pretty receptive to it and are open to the fact that you're giving them a good deal, and so they don't want to screw you over as a result. But yeah, along those 4 to 8 weeks whilst you're waiting, we'll give you weekly, sometimes bi-weekly updates of how your suit is being made and who's making it, with behind-the-scenes footage from the factory. And that was largely driven by when we were going around the factory, not knowing about fashion, and you're looking at a jacket and it probably passes through 35 to 40 pairs of hands from different people doing different jobs before you get the finished product. And when you see that, your appreciation for what you're about to receive goes up significantly, rather than, like, I don't know what my assumption was before, but, like, I don't know, it gets put on a machine and someone might check the machine and then it comes out the other end. But actually it's like the buttons are done by someone different, to someone that makes the buttonholes, to someone specifically does shoulder stitching, and someone else puts on lapels or whatever it might be. Someone else cuts it, someone else steams it. So there's so many different processes. And getting an understanding of that helps your perception of that value, and also makes that wait time exciting. You get to follow the journey, and then by the time it comes, not only does it feel like free a free item because the money's already been spent. There's a bit of a psychological thing in there where you've spent the money already, so it feels like it's free. But
yeah, that's boy math.
It is boy math. It really is. But by the time you get it, you've followed the journey, so you're bought in.
Do you think that's a barrier to growth, that people have to wait that period?
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's also an opportunity for growth at the same time. So it's a double-edged sword for sure. Our like long-term goal is the more suits we sell, or items we sell, the shorter the lead time can get. So it's like, how can we grow fast enough in the early stages to then unlock the huge growth that comes later when we can, the quickest lead time would be us setting up our own factory and we can turn it around in a week. So your purchase to delivery time maybe even quicker than that. But there's a big jump from where we're at now to setting up our own factory, which is like long way down the line. But if we can do that, the game changes.
So often as a company gets bigger, their sustainability worsens. How are you guys going to ensure that as you grow, you maintain your sustainability?
I think it's about staying true to our why. Why we set Batch up was a genuine desire to change the culture of overconsumption and change the conversation around sustainability. We've chosen to keep that at our core even after a whole rebrand. We had an honest conversation with ourselves about, like, are we motivated by sustainability? Is the business motivated by sustainability? And the answer is yes. That doesn't need to be the message that everybody sees, though. Internally, we want to make a change on the amount of clothes that are going to landfill. 6 in 10 items that are made every single year end up in landfill within 12 months. So there's a huge issue, and people throw around these sustainability facts, and we try our best not to these days a little bit because it can be perceived as greenwashy, but it is the reality. And if we can have slightly more considered and genuinely like chilled out conversations around what we're buying, and if Batch as a brand is putting that message out, I think we can continue to remain as sustainable as we are now in the future.
Yeah, it's easier for us because the way that we're being sustainable is by completely changing the model.
Yeah.
So all we have to do is commit to that and always make to order, and we don't have to worry about growth and sustainability conflicting each other because we are still eliminating that waste that you get from buying lots of stock and hoping that it sells. Even if we release new products that no one likes, release like, I don't know, a velvet orange suit, which seemed like a great idea, and 2 people buy it, then we only make 2 suits. And so we haven't gambled on it, hope that it's going to work, and it hasn't. And then you've got all of this shit stock that no one wants, so you can throw away.
There are potentially small compromises that will rear their heads along the way. For example, at some point of production levels, we're going to have to consider where we're manufacturing the suits again from a margin perspective. It won't make sense anymore to make them in London, potentially. Moving to Portugal already then immediately adds air freight, or because we avoid that at the moment. So those are the things that we'll have to compromise as the brand grows, but then you work out how you can contribute in other areas of the business, really.
Yeah. Or increasing prices.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's the biggest misconception people have about Batch, do you think?
I think you did a good job of outlining one in that, the suit. Like, I don't need this product, therefore I'm not going to shop at Batch, which is a frustrating marketing pain point that we're always working around, like showing people how you style it, how you dress it, where you can wear it. Alongside that, I guess one of the biggest issues is from a marketing perspective is persuading people to change the way that they're buying, in that parting ways with your cash and then waiting for it to be made is quite a big sacrifice for a lot of people. So they're our biggest stumbling blocks to fast growth, making sure people understand that this product is genuinely super versatile and useful for people's wardrobes and that everybody needs one. But also the fact that, changing the way that people consume ultimately.
You don't need it right now.
Yeah.
It's better off saving a few quid and having something for life than getting instant gratification that falls apart in a year.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes... people are changing. People are quickly realising that buying loads of fast fashion stuff that doesn't last very long is more expensive in the long run and just quite annoying. So the world is changing at the same time that we are. Hopefully two things align.
another misconception probably that we've not addressed is that we make suits for both men and women, and that's always been a very interesting point for us as two male founders. We wanted Batch to be a brand that was inclusive for women as well. The suit is traditionally, it's biased towards men, so we wanted to create an outfit that women felt empowered and wanted to wear as well. But that's quite difficult as a very small brand to appeal to both markets, and we're very heavily skewed in lots of different directions towards men.
Is it the same fit as the men for the women's stuff?
Different cut for the women's, boxier jacket, higher waist and a flared leg. They're not the outfits aren't necessarily like gender exclusive in that you can wear, a man can wear the women's trousers and the women's jacket and vice versa. The women can wear, Simone, our head of retail, wears the women's trousers with the men's jacket. I'll regularly wear the women's trousers with the men's jacket, so you can mix and match.
Just different cuts.
Yeah, but it's it's been a point of interesting discussion for us because we're very heavily reliant on men from our market, as you would suspect, because women have tons of choice when it comes to buying clothes, men don't. We solve a different problem for men in terms of it's difficult to dress smart casually for a lot of men. Women don't necessarily struggle to dress themselves, so appealing to women is something that we're always trying to work on, and I think at face value, especially from the conversation we've just had, and me and Sam sitting here, you wouldn't know that we were a brand for women as well.
Yeah, that's the first thing that's been mentioned.
Well, I was conscious of it the whole time, so I'm hoping that we're going to be able to mention it, because it's really important to us that we're a brand that appeals to both. We've worked with so many cool women that have shaped Batch. Two of our core members, Imo and Simone, it's a huge part of our brand. But we need to get the product right, because getting the product right for women with different body shapes, men are generally just much easier to fit than women.
You should collaborate with a women's fashion brand as well.
Yeah.
2025 is the year of collaborations for Batch across this space.
Yeah.
Haven't got any lined up yet, but we will.
But people see it as competitiveness when you collaborate with another fashion brand, but Representative have done a really good job of it over the last 2-3 years, where they've essentially created a garment with someone else's logo on next to theirs.
Yeah.
And it's grown their brands
unlocks a whole new market.
Exactly, for both brands though.
Yeah.
I've got so many questions for you guys off the back of, not that aren't written down, just off the back of the conversation we've been having. I've really, really enjoyed it. So the made to order and tailoring isn't the same thing, is it? So if someone comes in and they think they're getting a fitting or a tailoring, it is you guys don't tailor, do you?
You've got made to order and made to measure, which is what you're talking about with tailoring. Made to measure is where it's made exactly for you. As soon as you do that, the price skyrockets because each individual piece is cut specifically for you. So you go through that, essentially the sampling process to make a new product, but for one person.
It's a custom order, right?
So custom order. Whereas made to order, we still make the product for you as an individual, but it's with off-the-shelf sizing. Where we mitigate that is we offer 50% off alterations. So you need to change the leg length or the arm length. A lot of people have disproportionate arms to body or legs to body or whatever. Super easy for us to do that. Costs 20 quid per alteration. So let's say you've got short arms and short legs, you need both altering. Instead of £400 a suit, it's £440 a suit. So it's marginal difference to have something that's not far off custom made. But that's the key.
So does that mean that everybody who buys off you has to walk through the store? They buy online as well?
No, if you buy online, it's the same thing. We've designed the products in a way that make them easy to alter. So you could take it down to your local dry cleaner, 90% of which do alterations as well. Which I don't know if many people know that, but most dry cleaners offer alterations too. And we'll show you how to measure it, show you how to tell them what you need to get done and get them done.
What's your split between online and in-store, percentage-wise?
About 80% in-store and 20% online.
Really interesting. You must have a lot of people coming into that store then, right?
Yeah.
Enough.
We'd like more.
Enough to make it work at the moment, yeah. If we can get more people to both, that's when we'll be happy. Especially the website. If we can get the website working, there's no reason why somebody can't just work out that they can pick their sizes, buy it, done, and arrive in 4 to 8 weeks. And we get that. They're the ones where you sat on your phone as a founder and you see an online store pop up and you're not working, or you got your feet up somewhere and you see somebody's just spent 600 quid in your shop. You're like, see, it does work. We just need to prove to more people that it works, and then we'll be in a little cushy position, hopefully.
I think, for me, just thinking about it, I think the online orders are going to be hard to grow. Because the in-store ones, you provide that experience in it. They come, they love it, but the online is like, you never order anything and it take 8 weeks to come.
Yeah.
So that's, if you crack that, that would be really interesting to see what happens.
It'll be easier as the brand grows.
For sure.
There's more reviews, as your mate has got one and told you that it does arrive on time and the experience is cool, whether you're in store or not. Like that, I think that piece just takes a bit more time.
You need to create loads of educational content on socials, you know, just educational, because it's a new concept, right?
Yeah.
Like it's completely new. Like all the stuff that you've learned over the last 2 years, like it would take you ages to talk. Like we've spent like nearly 2 hours talking about it now. Do you know what I mean? Just educational content. Just whoever you get in for socials, just education. Because learning about it is like making me wanna be involved with the brand. You know.
Noted, by the way.
We've gone through something very similar this year. You guys were broken into. Tell me more about that day. What happened? How were you feeling?
It started with a phone call at 5 a.m, which I didn't pick up because my phone was on silent. So when I woke up at 7 or whenever it was, there was a text that just said your store's been broken into. So I called Julian.
Oh, it was your windows smashed.
Your window smashed.
Which could have meant anything, but we were like, oh, how bad is this?
So I called Julian. I was like, apparently we've had a window smashed. Oh, for fuck's sake. So we both cycled down there, arrive at the same time on our line bikes, and
I was pissed off because I just got to the gym and I was like, should I finish my session? Like, how serious actually is this?
Our initial reaction was actually massive relief, because window had been smashed, store had been broken into, but they'd just reached through the window and stolen what was on the rail directly by the window. And in our heads, we were cycling down there to see the whole place ransacked and everything gone. Like, you always think the worst. As an actual fact, like it was a massive inconvenience, because it was all of these new herringbone suits that we just launched. Suddenly we didn't have anything for anyone to try and install, and then you go through the headache of getting your window fixed, getting them replaced, talking to insurers, talking to police, and like just something that you don't need when you're running a startup and trying to open a new shop and do loads of stuff at the same time. So initial feeling was relief. Second feeling was like, that's really, really, really fucking annoying. Third feeling was like, can we do something about it? Can we get some awareness off the back of this?
Yeah, we're pretty much licking our lips straight away as marketeers, like, here we go. This is quite handy. They've left the bricks and everything. Knew LinkedIn was going to eat it up, so got it straight out onto there. Managed to obtain the CCTV footage, then the press wanted it, so that gave us a little bit of a viral frenzy that day with like the Daily Mail and etc. sharing it, and then a few clever heads reached out to us. 2 gents in particular from an agency called 10 Days were like, we want to help you amplify this story. Got a few ideas, so the next morning we put our heads together. Well, in fact, to be fair to Sam was like, we should make more of this. And I was like, I don't want to milk it too much. And then as the conversation developed, I was like, oh shit, no, this actually has got a lot of potential. In 10 days...
You got to make the best of a bad situation, right?
You do. They were like, we can get you some billboard space super quickly. Let us create you some visuals. They came up, to be fair to them, with Say It Suited. And then between us and 10 Days Agency, we were able to turn that campaign around into, well, it was I think it was the Monday morning in Shoreditch, up on the billboard with Holding the Bricks, and that's been our best performing piece of content. I think everyone's seen it since we got robbed. It's all people ask us about. So that sort of, guerrilla marketing does cut through the noise, and it overall, what was a really long situation to have found ourselves in was ultimately a positive for us.
Marketing is so simple, right? You've just got to do something that's not been done before. And that was a perfect example of it, right?
We were talking about pushing it further and like, what's the next stage of this, and like getting a photo of some actually well-dressed robbers on a London buses, and then making an unstealable suit and putting it in central London and seeing if people could come and steal it. And it got to us releasing that second bit of content on the billboards, and the amount of people that accused us of robbing our own shop. They're like, this is too smooth, you've done this too quickly, you've definitely done it yourselves. We kind of just clocked on to like, if we'd pushed it that one next step, it probably would have killed the initial first 2 steps, and people would have gone from like, really respect that you've turned a bad into a good, to like, you're taking the piss now, I think about everyone else that's actually being robbed. So it was a fine line to tread. We could have tried it.
Do you know what though, like, as you say that, because I love pushing the boundaries, right? I just think like, you have been robbed. It doesn't matter what people say. Like, because we get it all the time on our socials, like, oh, it's an inside job, it's an insurance job. Like, genuinely, like, lots and lots of comments because we've spoken about it a lot. But I'm like, the fact is, we've been robbed. That's not going to change. So, like, the more we talk about this, the more people we will eventually reach. Obviously, there's a cut-off point, like 6 months talking about it a long time. But that sounds like a fantastic idea. Putting a suit, like super gluing a suit, like in quotations, super gluing a suit to a mannequin and trying getting it off.
We were going to make it out of like steel,
like iron,
aluminium.
Yeah,
that's it in concrete.
Such a
and
good
then
idea.
Do like a Arthur's sword.
Yeah.
So like, can you steal it? We'll give, if you can actually steal this, we'll give you a fat reward.
We'll give you a lifetime supply of suits.
Yeah.
That's such a good idea.
Which will be one because they're so well made.
I appreciate the enthusiasm, Ben, but I think we missed the mark on it now. Shit, we'll get out of it. I didn't do this. Ben said it was a good idea.
Yeah, but maybe like in future, like just those disruptive ideas are just quality. Really, really cool.
We're not afraid to like be. We are a challenger brand. Like we're doing things totally differently, and if you get an opportunity to make some noise, you take it.
Absolutely.
I think it was a good reminder for us, like, one, to get the right insurance and not put stuff by windows that like make sure you're not going to get robbed, but two, that we are a challenger brand and we can behave like that, and like to the point that we've kind of just gone through that conversation.
Yeah.
You be scared to do that sometimes, or don't push it far enough, or worry too much about what people are going to think, or worry about bad press, and actually like we've built a brand that allows us to do that. And that is what's going to turn the dial. So it was a little bit of a wake-up call for us internally as well.
This is probably a great place to end then. Fuck Black Friday. It's a message you've stayed true to for every Black Friday campaign you've ever done.
Yeah.
Why?
I hate it. I think it's like a time of year where loads of brands use social and psychological mechanics to get you to buy more stuff that you don't actually need. And so you end up in this cycle of you're buying something at a heavy discount, like using 70% off again, where brands are still making profit, otherwise they wouldn't do it. So the end result is you're buying shit quality stuff that they've had to make more cheaply to be able to give you 70% off and still make money that you don't really need. Like, if there's one day of the year or weekend of the year that drives a significant, and I don't know the stats, so part of it's gut feel, but I would imagine it drives a significant proportion of the waste that we have in the world is Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Yeah, nothing really to add to it. I went from a brand that was huge on Black Friday, do like £1 million over Black Friday whilst I was there, and you're just like watching how many people, and it's wild. It's consumerism gone wild, really, isn't it? And as a brand that sustainability is at our core, but we don't want it to necessarily be our most prominent marketing message. I think we have to say something on Black Friday, and just standing against it, and just again, it's the way that we're having the conversation around sustainability. It's okay to consume clothes. If you want to buy stuff on Black Friday, fine. Everybody loves buying clothes. I love buying clothes. I didn't buy anything this Black Friday, but I'm not saying I wouldn't, because I'm anti-Black Friday. But let's just all consider what we're buying, and if we are, then ultimately the industry would become a bit more of a sustainable place. Like, it does matter. The planet matters. We're messing it up. Fashion is a huge contributor to that. We're not saying everybody let's be sustainable, let's just think a little bit more, which is...
Buy it because you really want it, not because you've got a fat deal in front of you that's probably not actually a deal.
It's like my mum said to me when I was younger, whenever I used to go to her with stuff, she was like, if you want it in 30 days, I'll think about getting it for you. And then in 30 days' time, you don't want it, right?
Yeah.
So you guys obviously do Fuck Black Friday. The Ordinary, I don't know whether you saw them do 25% off for the whole of November rather than a Black Friday sale. They took a different approach to Black Friday. Do you think Black Friday's dead?
No.
It's well alive, isn't it?
No. It's not dead yet. It's still going strong, and it will continue to go strong because lots of brands make a lot of money.
Brands are getting more desperate. It's who can turn on the tap first to get the customers first. I saw it in my old job. Like, you start moving the goalposts, and Black Friday becomes Black Friday week, and it's just to hit sales targets, which generally consumer brands, because they spent so much money on stock, they have to sell it, and if they don't, they're scuppered.
Why do you think they're starting earlier and earlier, their Black Friday sales?
To get ahead of the other people, to be the first mover. Because there's only so much money you've got on Black Friday. Like, it's very rare that people manage to save money throughout the year to spend on Black Friday. So it's like, how much have you got left over from this paycheck and maybe the one before?
They're just fighting for customers.
It's first, who can get there first? Who can get there to spend the money first? what I think it will do is like it's less likely that Black Friday will die, but it will kill a lot of brands in the process. That again, it's that same phrase like once a discount customer, always a discount customer. So you get these huge increase in sales over Black Friday. I think you've got loads of new customers on board that won't buy again until next Black Friday, at which point you have to do deals earlier or bigger than everyone else that's doing it, and lots of brands won't be able to survive that.
Yeah. Ads and Ola, they're a brand who don't do Black Friday sales either, and they have their record sales that week anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like you, when you say always once a discount customer, always a discount customer. That's, yeah, so true. Well, boys.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you so
Ben.
much.
Good
Nice one,
chats.
mate.
Yeah, that was really good. That was, how long was that? 1 hour 51. That could be the second longest one.
Is it? What was your
That was
longest?
fantastic.
Well, good speaking. Plus, there's two of us.
Yeah, but before we go,
alright.
there's like a...
No rush. I just wanted to settle because my bum was numb.
Yeah, no, that's these seats do that to you. So on the podcast, it's obviously called Everybody Wants to Be Us. I get everyone who's a guest to write down on a piece of paper one thing that if someone wanted to be like you, what would they have to do? What would they have to be? So I'll give you the piece of paper, write on it, put it in a tip jar, and then eventually we're going to do something with it. We don't know what yet. But
So just what they would like the word of what, or like adjective, etc.
no, so like a little
or
phrase.
name.
So like if someone wanted to be like you, what would they have to do?
And does it need to have any context that I've written it? That's what I mean. Do I need to title it or
yeah,
Julian
so just
said?
underneath, just sign it off.
Okay, cool, understood.
Julian.
Yeah.